flag is supposed to look that way? I also thought it was snowing the night we crossed the Delaware River. Well, even if I can't remember that. I certainly do remember our victory over the British and the Hessians, otherwise known as the sneak attack at the Battle of Trenton. Hello, my name is George Washington, commander of the Continental Army. Most people don't know this about me, but I used to be incredibly impressed by the British. I admired their flashing red coats, their weapons, and their experience, so I fought alongside them during the French and Indian War. After the war, I saw how British treated colonists. I was embarrassed to think that I fought alongside such cruel humans. Finally, I left the army to start a new path in my life. As you must know, we patriots were losing many battles. I cannot bear to think of those dreadful days. I say dreadful. We were outnumbered. Colonists were giving up. I was their leader. I needed to think of something, and quick. My inspiring words helped boost the morale of my soldiers. The timing was quite difficult. Cold weather, Christmas night, and low supplies. My men were tired, wet, cold, and missing their families. If their spirits weren't raised, who knows what the outcome could have been. Along with making sure my men were ready to fight, I remembered how American Indians fought during the French and Indian War. They would disguise themselves to blend in with their surroundings, hiding behind rocks, trees, and bushes. That's when I decided we needed to avoid fighting in cities, and we would take it to the woods and to the fields. On a dark and snowy Christmas night of 1776, I led my men on an expedition called the Sneak Attack at the Battle of Trenton. We pushed through sheets of ice as we crossed the Delaware River. It was bitterly cold, and most of my men got frostbite because they were not wearing boots. Some men gave up, but I kept on moving, as did most of my soldiers. When we got to our destination, we struck. The British and the Hessians, German soldiers fighting with the British, did not see it coming. We later celebrated our victory. This attack gave us confidence, and we won many battles after that. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a turning point. the confidence we gained during our clever sneak attack, we won the war. And on July 4th, 1776, America gained its independence. Honestly, I still cannot believe it. Although it was extremely hard being a leader, I realized that everyone needed to work together to win the war of our revolution. Together, we can do anything because together we're unstoppable. God bless America, and it ever shall be. Thank you all, for I should head back to my home in Mount Vernon. Good day.
Good morning, Patriots. I am John Adams. I grew up in Braintree, Massachusetts as a noble patriot. In 1770, I defended the British soldiers and their captain in trial shortly after the Boston Massacre. No other lawyer wanted the job, but I believed that everyone, even the hated redcoats, deserved a fair trial. Around this time, I was thinking of the colonies as a new free nation. I also wondered how the new government would operate. I thought all the power should be split up, as opposed to one person ruling. That way, each part would check and balance the others. I had to show that the time for independence had come. Little by little, people began to see things my way. Unfair taxes, Boston Massacre, things were getting out of hand. At last, we agreed to vote and decide whether to break away from Great Britain once and for all. When the congressmen did vote for independence, we needed to explain why we were justified in declaring our independence. My ideas were included in the Declaration of Independence. I spoke to the Continental Congress urging them to accept the Declaration of Independence. 1 year after the start of the war, the Declaration was adopted. That date is still celebrated every year on July 4th. Eventually, after 7 years of war, I helped negotiate a peace treaty with Britain, which solidified our destiny as an independent nation. Long live America.
The British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming, the British are coming. I'll hang one lantern if the British are coming by sea, and two if they're coming by... I'll hang one lantern if the British are coming by land, and two if they're coming by sea. If you haven't already guessed, my name's Paul Revere. You may know my famous midnight ride. I was also a proud member of the Sons of Liberty. I really did hate those taxes on tea. After the Boston Massacre, colonists realized they needed to act now if they wanted to be free from Britain, and I agreed. I'm with the Sons of Liberty, and I chose William Dodds myself to make the ride. Having a partner was great because we were able to win lots of people in many different towns quickly. As soon as I saw the British version, I signaled for both lanterns to be hung in Boston's Old North Church. Some people think all I did was bang and shout, "The British are coming, the British are coming." If we have to get technical, you should know I most likely shout, "The regulars are coming, not the British are coming." But it was much harder and time-consuming than just that. I actually got off my horse, knocked on the doors, and waited for Minutemen to open their doors. On my way to Concord, I encountered 12 British officers. I had to get off my horse, brown beauty, who unfortunately I never saw again. The officers took my horse away, but luckily they did not take me. They did not care about just one person. They had a more important battle to fight. I saved Sam Adams and John Hancock from British capture by warning them to escape Lexington before General Gage came to them. Some people say I started the war, which makes a ton of sense. No kidding. The day after my ride, the war started. I warned the soldiers and they fought the Battle of Lexington and Concord. I will never forget that memorable midnight ride. It will live up here forever. Sorry, gotta run. Business calls. People are always wanting more of my intricate silver balls. My company doesn't even know how to make them without my help. Proceed, great chief, with virtue on thy side. Thy every action let the goodness guide. A crown, a mansion, and a throne that shine. With gold unfading, Washington be thine. Oops, sorry, I should introduce myself. I'm Phyllis Wheatley, known as the slave poet.
I live at the Wheatley residence with John and Susanna Wheatley. When I was 7 years old, I was kidnapped from my parents and sold into slavery. I was named after the ship that brought me to America, the Phyllis, and by my owner's last name, Wheatley. Now listen closely to the story of how I was able to meet George Washington. First, Susanna Wheatley, the woman of the household in which I lived, taught me how to read and write. She saw my intellectual potential and allowed me to cease my household duties and focus solely on my studies. Oh, how I loved poetry. I began to write poems. One of my poems was recognized in a publication. Then, 4 years later, I sent a letter to General George Washington with a poem I wrote to honor him. Patriotic sentiments were a theme throughout many of my poems. After he read my poem, he wrote me a letter back and addressed me as Miss Phyllis. He even signed his letter, "Your obedient, humble servant." I was amazed. In his letter, he asked me to visit him at his home in Cambridge, Massachusetts. After that, the poem that I wrote for George Washington got published in the Pennsylvania Magazine. Undoubtedly, we have a lot more work to do on women's rights and freeing black slaves, and I will continue to write more poems to help. Hopefully, writing poems will urge people to change their views. I'm Phyllis Wheatley, the slave poet. Now, good day. I must go before Mrs. Wheatley's morning tea gets cold.
Ever since I was 5, I've been switching families because my mom could not take care of me. It has been a very hard life for me. I've been longing for an adventure ever since I was born. I finally became a school teacher and taught little kids in the town that I lived in. Still, I longed for more. That longing led to an important idea. I wanted to join the Army. I knew that you could travel all over the 13 colonies. I quit my job as a school teacher and joined the Army on May 20th, 1782. I proudly signed my name, Robert Shirtliff. I had to make long marches to faraway places. One day, I was traveling on my horse to a Tory's cave, a colonist who supported the king. Then, the Tories saw us, and we all had to gallop away on our horses before they could kill us all. I was shot in the leg and in the neck, and I was taken to the hospital where they examined me. I never trusted doctors, so I decided to take the bullet out myself and get back to the battlefield. Shortly after I left the hospital, I fell ill with the fever. Back to the hospital, I had to leave the war early and go home. I was absolutely furious. Pardon me, I have an itch. Did I forget to tell you? I got kicked out of the Army because I'm a woman, and General Washington found out and made me leave. My real name is Deborah Sampson. I went to extreme measures to keep my identity safe. It's the reason why I took the bullet out of my leg myself. When I fell ill with the fever, the doctor who treated me promised to keep my secret safe. Until one day, he shared the news with General George Washington. I told you, never trust doctors. Sorry, Daddy. Well, it has been great to relive the glory days, but I must go now. I have to make dinner. Good day.
Fellow patriots, I'm a Dutch schoolmaster, but I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm a spy and soldier. My name is Nathan Hale. I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. Those may have been my last words, but let's start from the beginning. I bet you want to know what it was like behind enemy lines, so listen closely. When I volunteered to be a spy for George Washington's army, my friend William Hull tried to talk me out of this spy mission. He said, "Nathan, spies are hung." I said, "This is my chance to help my country." I became a part of Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Knowlton's Rangers. I disguised as a Dutch schoolmaster so that I could spy on the British. I gathered information and hid it where I believed no one would find it. My shoe! Later, the British were suspecting of me and took me onto their ship to ask me questions. I told them I was a Dutch schoolmaster, but they tied me to a chair and found the information I had hidden in my shoe. At that moment, I knew it was over. I was honest with the British soldiers. They gave me one chance to save my life. I had to sign a pledge to the king. I said never. The next day at 11 a.m. on Sunday, September 22nd, 1766, they brought me to a nearby orchard tree where the noose and rope were ready. I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. After my final words, it was goodbye. However, I know I did not die in vain. Because of me and my death, George Washington improved orders for spies in the Continental Army, and a new spy ring was formed named Samuel Culper. God bless America.
Hello, my name is Abigail Adams, but you can call me what my husband does, Miss Adorable. I was born October 11th, 1744, and although I grew up in the small town of Weymouth, Massachusetts, I had big dreams. As a child, I could be very stubborn, so my family called me Nabby. Because I was a girl, I did not receive formal schooling like you lucky girls, but I took my education seriously because I always believed women were capable, and I certainly was never shy about giving my opinion. I married John Adams, who became the second president of the United States, making me the second First Lady. When my husband John was away fighting for America's freedom from Great Britain, we wrote many letters to each other, and he often asked my advice on politics. We all know that behind a successful man is a strong woman. One of my most famous letters to my husband was when I asked for him to remember the ladies, because I did not like the way women were being treated. For instance, women were not allowed to own property or vote. What's up with that? I asked my husband, as the new government wrote laws, they treated women the same as men. John did not appreciate my opinion at first, but I continued to fight for women's rights, because I always believed women could do more than cook, clean, and sew. You might say I was the first advocate for women's rights, and because of me, girls like you can have the same opportunities as boys and can grow up to be anything they want. Now, apologies. I have to run. My son, John Quincy Adams, was just elected president. Imagine that. I'm the wife and now also the mother of a U.S. president. I hope a woman will be a U.S. president someday, too. Now, always be sure to remember the ladies.
The British are burning Danbury, meaning Colonel Ludington's house. I shouted and shouted that while I rode my horse to wake up my father's soldiers. Sorry, let me back up a little. My name is Sybil Ludington. I don't have much time, but I would love to tell you my story. I'm a brave young girl who simply did what any patriot would do. As I said, I don't have much time, so we shall start. My father is Colonel Ludington. A messenger came to our house one night to tell us the bad news. The British were burning the town of Danbury, a half a day's march away. Danbury had no militia, so we were their only hope. My father needed someone to warn his soldiers and prepare them for battle. The messenger said he could go, but everyone agreed that he was too wet, too cold, and too tired to make the journey. That's when I said I would go. My mother didn't want me to, but my dad said I should because he knew someone had to. More importantly, he knew I was just as good as a rider as any man. When I went on my midnight ride, despite of the danger and darkness, I called for the soldiers to meet my father in our house. We thought me one part of the American Revolution will still be missing, and that would change the history of America. Without me, you wouldn't know how brave young women were in the fights of this country. I love our founding fathers, but don't forget about the brave women who remind us how courageous we must be. God bless America.
Hello, fellow patriots. Thomas Jefferson here. I'm sure you all know about my part in the Revolutionary War, but why don't I tell you a little bit about how I got there first? I grew up on a Virginian farm. Growing up, I enjoyed playing music, trying new foods, and most of all, I treasured my books. I graduated college at 18. Later in life, I decided to get involved with the government because I truly believed in democracy and that the colonists should be able to choose their own government. In 1768, I was elected to the Virginia House of Burgesses. My lawmakers and I agreed on one thing, and that was that the British taxes were completely unfair. Later in 1768, the Second Continental Congress took place. Our goal was to lead the colonies to freedom. Soon after, I was elected to write the Declaration of Independence. I was thrilled, but I knew it was not going to be easy. To my surprise, it took me 3 weeks to write the Declaration of Independence, making sure every word fit in perfectly. 56 people signed the Declaration of Independence once I was done. I made sure every word fit in perfectly. The document stated that all men were created equal. Being born into a wealthy family did not give someone the right to rule others. Every person was born to the right of life, liberty, and happiness. The Declaration also included one of the ideas that I had been fighting for since the beginning. All colonists have the right to pick their own leaders. The democracy we practice today all started with my words. On July 4th of 1776, the Sons of Liberty finally adopted the Declaration of Independence. This date is celebrated every year for America's independence and our escape from King George III. It's been nice reminiscing, but now I'm off to Monticello to plant some more tomatoes. Good day.
There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, we must fight. Good morning, Patriots. My name is Patrick Henry. Known for my bold speeches, I'm a proud member of the Virginia House of Burgesses. After the King implemented the Stamp Act, I entered the House of Burgesses ready for a fight. My list of reasons against the tax started an angry debate. Virginia was the oldest colony, therefore was considered the most loyal, but I had other plans. During my speech against the tax, several House members shouted, "Treason!" I replied, "If this be treason, make the most of it." I was ready to take my grievances to a more serious form. At the First Continental Congress, I continued to passionately speak my mind and urge congressional members that we must become one united colony. At that moment, I heard murmurs. I knew I had to act fast. I am not a Virginian, but an American. At the Second Continental Congress, I persuaded the people to prepare for war. I helped George Washington organize the army and became Commander-in-Chief of the Virginia Militia, then resigned in February because I thought it'd be more helpful off the battlefield. My bold words inspired many, most especially my fellow Virginians. Just a few months shy of July 1776, Virginia declared itself independent and wrote the first state constitution. I also happened to be elected first governor and was elected twice after that. My priorities of being governor was to supply local militia with clothes, weapons, and gunpowder in order to be ready for battle. Signing the Declaration of Independence was a proud moment for me, but the war had only begun. We still had many years to go before we got rid of that treacherous King George. I will now leave you with some of my most inspiring words. I not know what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Behind all of my money. Greetings. You may not recognize my face, but I bet you do know my signature. I am John Hancock, currently the richest man in New England. Some of my friends call me King Hancock. Now, dear friends, you may call me King Hancock too. I'm going to tell you about my favorite thing, me. Let's get started. I grew up in Boston, but unfortunately my parents passed away when I was young, and I'm still saddened by the thought. When they died, I moved in with my Uncle Thomas and my Aunt Lydia in a very wealthy house. Over time, I have been practicing my handwriting, which makes me so good. Me and Sam Adams were the best of friends. He was the one that helped me fight for independence. He organized the Sons of Liberty, and I was a devoted member. Right before the war started, we were hiding out in Lexington together. Luckily, our good friend Paul came to warn us first.
Got your back, Hancock.
We escaped the town before being caught. Phew, that was a close one. All spring, members of the Continental Congress and myself were arguing over whether we should declare independence or not. Some men believed that the risk would not be worth the reward, but I believe there was no risk great enough when the reward was freedom. It took us 2 days to agree to declare independence, which was prepared in a written document by Thomas Jefferson. I was the first to sign the Declaration of Independence. What can I say? I'm a natural at being great. As I signed, I swished my letters like I was the fanciest man in the world. Now can you guess who's King George's #1 enemy? Me. All me. I wanted to be sure King George III could read my signature without his spectacles. Because of me, American independence became a reality. Some people thought I was too vain to have power, but oh well. To sign the Declaration of Independence has been an honor. Farewell. I'm off to count some more of my money.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there.
Hello, my fellow Americans. Let me introduce myself. My name is Benjamin Franklin. You may have heard of me, or perhaps you recognize me from the $100 bill. I'm one of the most famous, influential figures. I'm one of the most famous political figures in American history. I'm widely recognized as one of the most important of the founding fathers. I am also a world-famous scientist and inventor, a famous newspaper publisher and author. I was a member of the Continental Congress, and I was on the drafting committee of the Declaration of Independence. I was a member of the Constitutional Convention, and I'm the only founding father who signed the Declaration of Independence, the Treaty of Paris, and the Constitution. As you can see, I have been pretty busy. But of all these events, the one that sticks out in my mind is the negotiation of the Treaty of Paris. The Treaty of Paris was negotiated in Paris, France, among the United States, the British, and the French. John Adams, John Jay, and myself negotiated for the United States for many months, and it was finally signed on September 3rd, 1783. Besides Britain recognizing our independence, the major point in the Treaty of Paris was that the British agreed to extend our land west to the Mississippi River. This allowed the United States to later expense the Pacific Ocean. I will take credit for the California coast and the Rocky Mountains, but don't blame me for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and the Kardashians. I remember signing the treaty and feeling an overwhelming sense of pride in my new country, and relief because the war lasted over 7 years, and for a good part of the time I was not sure we were going to win. Phew, that was a close one. It's no surprise that I was chosen to negotiate the Treaty of Paris for the United States. Just look at all I accomplished in my life. As a young man, I published my newspaper, which became the most popular newspaper in America, and I became a famous author. My curious mind led me to study many different things, and I became a world-famous scientist and inventor in addition to my political career. You must have heard of my famous kite experiment. Well, as they say, do not try that at home. My inventions were practical and helped people in their everyday lives. I never made any money from my inventions. All I needed was to know I was helping my fellow men. Forget the fame and glory. I am a true altruist. Look around the room. Who here can say they don't just work to get that big paycheck? Although I didn't do it all for the fame, I did become extremely well known, and that helped to get support for the revolution in Europe. I was sent to France in 1776 to get the French to help us win the war. Without France's help, the revolution may have failed, and the Declaration of Independence would have been for nothing. Once again, I saved the day. The Declaration of Independence was a dream that the Treaty of Paris made a reality. It is for that reason that the Treaty of Paris is so important to me. I consider it one of my biggest accomplishments since everything I did in my life led up to this great event, the establishment of the United States of America. Farewell, my fellow patriots. I am off. Perhaps I will go fly a kite. But let me leave you with a quote from my book, Poor Richard's Almanac. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn.
Alicia. Victory, victory sings. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. My political play about the Boston Tea Party is forever stuck in my head. Did I not introduce myself? You are looking at the one and only female revolutionary playwright, Mercy Otis Warren. Thankfully, the war is long over, but my plays live on. Born into a political family, I've always found democracy thrilling. As a girl, I was expected to marry and keep house like my mother, but I knew I wanted more. My favorite book growing up was The History of the World by Sir Walter Raleigh, which is full of cruel kings and greedy leaders. Sound familiar?
No.
I got my start writing plays for my brother's newspaper after he got badly beaten by loyalists. They didn't like that his publication spoke out against King George and all of his unlawful taxes. After this happened, I found it therapeutic to let my anger out in political poems and plays. I'd cast my loyalist enemies as villains and my patriot friends as heroes. I would give the villains weird names like Raptio, Simple Sampling, Crusty Crowbar, Hector Mushroom, and Hum Humbug. People went crazy for my writings. However, as a female patriot, I never signed my name to my work, not only to protect myself against the British, but because they would never respect a woman writer. In the end, I wrote an amazing book filled with 18 of my political poems and 2 of my political plays. Long after the war was over, I wrote a book about the history of the American Revolution called History of the Rise, Progress, and Termination of the American Revolution. It was the first book I signed with my given name. Farewell, I am off to write another play in my name.
Good morning. My name is Mary Ludwig Hayes, but the soldiers called me Molly Pitcher, and so can you. Although the soldiers knew me as filling up pitchers of water for them, my greatest accomplishment was firing and shooting the cannon for my husband William. Let me start from the beginning and tell you my whole story. I started to follow William from camp to camp after he joined the war in December 1777. I wanted to join the war as well, but women couldn't, so I just helped out at the army camp. At first, I did not watch William fight, I just lived with him and helped out by washing the soldiers' clothes and tending to the sick. Then a few other women and I started to watch the battles. On June 28, 1778, all the soldiers were falling to the ground because of a massive heat wave. Immediately, I grabbed a pitcher and gave the water to the soldiers. William fell to the ground too weak to shoot the cannon, so I stepped up and shot the cannon for him. The soldiers could not believe their eyes. A cannonball nearly killed me, but I did not care. I kept going. After that, George Washington called me over after the war and rewarded me with a hat full of gold. I was very thankful. As a result of my fearless efforts, many of the soldiers survived. Overall... Oh wait, hold on. I hear soldiers calling my name. Duty calls, I must go put up some more pictures. Good day.
Welcome to your entertainment, the amazing and incredible me.
Hello, my name is Samuel Adams, and don't get it confused. I'm Samuel Adams, not John Adams. If you've never heard of the Sons of Liberty, then you've probably never heard of me. I'm the proud organizer of the Sons of Liberty, a group that I came up with. They also had the idea for the Boston Tea Party. Now let me tell you my story. Even before the Revolutionary War, I believed that people had the right to oppose their king. In 1769, King George III said he was going to tax the colonies. I mean, come on, dude, like the Sugar Act wasn't enough already. You had to enact the Stamp Act too? Don't you think that's a little too far? Me and my fellow Sons of Liberty knew we had to make a statement to the king. We hung a dummy from a tree resembling the British tax collector. On December 16th, 1773, the Boston Tea Party happened. And trust me, this was not your everyday, ordinary tea party. Involved the Boston Tea Party was a lot of patriots, including myself, and the Sons of Liberty. We threw pounds of tea into the ocean to get King George's attention and show him who's boss. John Hancock and I were being tracked for treason. Officers were being sent to arrest us. Thankfully, 2 men, Paul Revere and William Dawes, warned us about the Redcoats' plan. If it was not for me, the Sons of Liberty would never have been organized. As a result, there would not have been a Boston Tea Party. What can I say? I like a good party. I know how to balance work and play. My essays and speeches push the 13 colonies towards revolution. Thanks for listening. I'm off. have much time. My customers have started talking to my wax sculptures, but I'm sure I'll have enough time to tell you my story. I'm Patience L. Wright, America's first sculptor and revolutionary spy. I tricked King George into giving me information which was later used to help the colonies win the war. I am important because I sent secret messages to the Continental Congress, which included information on England's battle plans. But the way I sent it is a whole different story. Benjamin Franklin was a friend of mine, and he told lords and ladies about me. The next thing you know, I got invited to Buckingham Palace, and that's where my story begins. It took many hours to sculpt my wax busts. So in that time, what else did I have to do besides talk? At Buckingham Palace for many hours, I talked to the king and queen while I sculpted them. I tricked the king into giving me information by giving him wrong information, which he quickly corrected. After a long day sculpting, I rushed home and wrote my letters. These letters contained all of the king's secrets that I had heard throughout our time together. Then, I gave the letters to my messenger, and he delivered them to my sister back in America. I did them many times until King George suspected me and many other American colonists of sending secret messages. Thanks to my creative thinking, I was able to think of an alternative plan to send my letters across the pond. I quickly got to work. I made wax heads that were hollowed out and put my messages inside. Genius, I know. When my sister finally received wax heads, she delivered them to the Continental Congress. Overall, I feel really proud to serve my country. Not only was spying fun, but art was always my true passion. Undoubtedly, I, along with many others, helped win the revolution. Oh no, I think I just heard King George and his wife Charlotte come in. I really hope they didn't overhear all that, or else I'd look like one of my sculptures without its head. Good day, and God bless America.
Who's at the door? Good afternoon, General Washington, Robert Morris, and Colonel George Ross. My name is Elizabeth Griscombe, but you can call me Betsy Ross. I was a young widow at the age of 24 when the three men knocked at my door. When I saw who they were, I led them to my parlor so we could conduct business. George Washington said that he wanted me to make the first American flag. I was so excited. What an honor. If they had a design, I'd follow it. Since I didn't have that many materials to get me started, Robert Morris said I can go down to a shipping wharf to get fabric, a design of an old flag, and more materials. When the men left, I got right to work, for I knew it was going to be a long night. I was born on January 1st, 1752 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I grew up in a Quaker family that did not fight at all. I was the 9th out of 17 children my father and mother had. At the age of 11, my father put me as an apprentice in an upholstery shop. When I was there, I met a man named John Ross. He was so nice and cheerful. One day he asked me to marry him, so I said yes. Since John was not a Quaker, we could not get married in Philadelphia. We ran a riot crossing the Delaware River to New Jersey and got married. Then one faithful day in the month of January, John put on his uniform and went to go guard captured supplies. In the afternoon, soldiers knocked on my door. In between them was my husband, all bloody and weak. They said he got injured by gunpowder exploding, and that he got caught in the blast. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Within days, John passed away. And that's when I knew it wouldn't be easy to carry on the business by myself, that I had to do it for John. Later that year in June was the day I opened my door to see one of the most influential patriots. I invited George Washington and his men in and offered them tea. George Washington said he wanted me to make a new flag for the Committee of Congress. When I heard him say I was going to make the flag, I was thrilled. The men gave me a pattern to follow to make it how they wanted, but first I had to give them my opinion. We all know women have the best eye for design. The first thing I said was that it should be more wider and longer to flow better in the wind. They said that instead of the Union Jack on the flag, it should be blue with 13 white stars.
General Washington wanted the stars to be 6-pointed. I knew that would take me hours, so I showed them how I could make a 5-pointed star much faster. After I was finished, the flag was sent to the flag committee along with many others. One day, Colonel George Ross came and told me my flag was picked. I was so excited because the colonies would now unite under my design. I also knew my business would be a success. John would be so proud. My contributions went further than just creating the flag. When help was needed, I made coats, shirts, pants, socks, and blankets for troops that were going to battle. Because of me, we, the United States, have a flag that represents who we are. My flag will wave through the air nice and proud forever long. Well, I should be getting back to making dinner for the girls and I've enjoyed sharing my story with you. Good day.
$345, $346, $347. Oh, hello, my loyal subjects. Excuse my manners. I was just counting up the money I received collecting taxes from the colonists. You are loyalists, aren't you? Raise your hands if you are loyalists. Good heavens! If you don't actually know who I am, let me introduce myself. Call me what my friends call me. George III, by grace of God of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, King Defender of the Faith. Since we're friends now, I want to make something absolutely clear. The Americans are the tyrants, not me. When I found out about the 342 crates of tea dumped into the Boston Harbor, I was furious. So I showed them by passing the Coercive Acts, which they subsequently renamed them the Intolerable Acts. Intolerable? They're the ones who are intolerable. The Americans act like children, and after all I've done for them, my men bravely fought on behalf of them in the French and Indian War. I thought they appreciated me, but that is when I found out I was wrong. The French and Indian War nearly doubled Great Britain's national debt, and so I needed to raise the money somehow. I taxed the colonists because of post-war debt, and as a result, the colonists were angry. They refused to pay my taxes and never stepping foot into the colonies myself. I had to send in the troops. My soldiers enforced the taxes, and soon the money came pouring in. Although the colonists might have been angry with me, I would say my taxes were a success. Therefore, I implanted more laws and more taxes like the Tea Act. I absolutely adore East India Company's tea. It is most delicious, and I thought the colonists would enjoy it too. I enacted a monopoly on tea sales in the American colonies as a result. However, this compels an awful and rowdy group called the Sons of Liberty to dump my precious tea into the Boston Harbor. The Tea Act was not meant to anger the colonists, but instead it was to help the East India Company get out of debt. See, I'm a good person. I only meant to help. After all my hard work, Parliament and I recognized America as a free country in 1783. But what made me most upset is I would be known as the king who lost America. Guess I won't be named this anymore. Goodbye, America. I certainly won't miss you.